Okay, we'll move on to video 3 in this series, and we'll just manipulate an integer variable just to see some things some of the ways that you can do it in C sharp. So I'll start by just getting rid of that code, and I'll create an integer called num, and I'll give it the value, let's say 5, and I want to display that. I want to print it out, and we're using that rich text box again, so it's RTB output.text, and we're going to set it equal to whatever is in num. Remember, num is it's a number type, so we need to convert it to a string, so it's .toString. So if we run that, we're just expecting, as normal, the 5 there. Okay, so remember num is set at 5 at the moment. If I do num is equal to num plus 1, like I would do in most other languages, you can see that num is taking on the value 5 there. We're adding 1 onto it, so it should have the value 6. So whenever we see the output now, it should have gone to 6. In C-based languages, you'll notice syntax that looks like that, like num plus plus, and you'll see if we run that, we're going to get the exact same output as before. Okay, number 6. So what that should tell you is that the plus plus operator together adds something onto, like in this case here, the variable num, and by default it adds on the number 1. If I wanted to add on a different number at a time and always increment it in steps of 2, I would say plus equals 2. So we start off with 5, and this time we get a 7. Now we could do it the other way around as well. We could do minus minus, or we could do multiplied by equals 2, which means it's going to multiply the contents of num by 2. So this time we again start with 5, we should get a 10. So fairly straightforward. You'll also notice things like let's see, if I say as plus plus num, okay, and run that, you see the output looks exactly the same. However, what actually happened in this line here is it's added 1 onto num before displaying it. So not very easy to see here. So I'm going to do another wee example just to let you see that. And personally, I never use plus plus or any other symbols before the variable. I mean, there's no particular need to, but I'm doing it just out of just to provide clarity in case you do see this kind of code. So I will delete that for now, and what I will do, I will say RTB output.text is equal to, and let's say if I do num plus plus dot toString, run our code, and you can see we're getting the value 5, just as before. But if I did a slight change there, I did plus plus num, and now run that, and we should get the value 6. So what that actually tells you there is that if you have the pluses, the operator in this case here, before the variable, it will do that operation before it's used in this statement. But if you have them after, the way we normally would, it will use the variable, and only after it's finished with the statement will it then do the increment. But that's more typical of what you would see. let me just remove that, right? And now we can see the kind of thing you can do with a variable. I want to use a variable to make something occur more than once, and you will have seen that we've come across various different types of loops in the past. One that we'll concentrate on just for now is known as a for loop. With this Visual Studio IDE here, and we're using Visual Studio 2017, there is some nice shortcuts built in. If I just type in the keyword for and press tab twice, you can see it'll build up the for loop for me. It's giving me a variable which we're creating called I, giving it a value 0. This middle part here is controlling how many times the loop will go around, and it's going to go around while I is less than length. So if I set length, let's say to 10, and then we've got I++. So what that should mean there is, if we were to print out, right, and what I'll do is I'll say RTB output.text is equal to I.toString. Okay, so if I was to run that, what we'll actually get, it'll go so fast, it'll do the output 10 times, and what we should end up with is just the number 9. Okay, but we actually did get all the numbers between 0 and 9. So what I'll do just to show that is, instead of making of overwriting RTB output each time, I'll do a plus equal. So that's just exactly the same as what we did with num there a few minutes ago. So I'm basically now saying add on to this text box I.toString. So as we iterate around the loop this time, we'll see all the values from 0 to 9. So anything I want to do a given number of times, I would put inside a loop of some kind. Generally, if you know how many times you want to dig around a loop, in this case here 10, then you would use a for loop. Other types of loop, we have a while loop and a do loop. Big difference in them being that a while loop performs its test at the beginning of the loop, so it won't enter the loop if a test isn't true, whereas a do loop performs a test at the end, and we'll do a couple of examples of those as we go along. But for now that's a very simple for loop, and all it's doing is just printing out the contents of the actual loop counter itself.